Welcome to Chuck Builds. This is another video in my smart home series where I'm rebuilding my Home Assistant setup and my smart home from scratch after I've moved. At this point in my series, we have made quite a few changes and I would feel quite put out if I needed to make this all again from scratch. Even though I have videos, I would prefer to restore from a backup than to do it all from scratch. So we're going to set up some backups. Now, I've already made this video on my channel quite a while ago. This was in 2023. So this was almost exactly 2 years ago in 2023, and it's been one of my worst performing videos on my channel. And I understand that backups aren't the most exciting thing, but I think it's the one thing that everyone should have. No matter what your goals are in your smart home, you should be having backups. And maybe it was the Google aspect of this that didn't do so hot. But in 2 years, all we've gotten was 1,300 views on this and a pretty bad watch duration. So I'm going to try and do this a little better, and we're going to have options this time. There's two ways that we're going to talk about backing up our Home Assistant. There's going to be the built-in way, which is going to your Home Assistant settings, system, and backups. And mine is already enabled, but I believe there's a big button right here that says turn on backups or enable backups, and it's automatic. And this is a great way to make sure that you don't break anything with an update or a config change that you can't come back from. But unless you're paying for Nabu Casa, their paid subscription for Home Assistant, your backups are still on your device. So something like a power surge that kills your hard drive, it still leaves you at risk for losing your data. At least you have backups at all. It's not off-site, but if you break something, you can restore back from that, and that is huge. If you do have Nabu Casa, you'd come down here and store it in the Home Assistant cloud and then just check this little box here. Now you can add more locations or a NAS to your network storage here. I'm going to skip that, and we're going to use an add-on to do that just because it's something I'm used to and I know how it works. And we're going to be using the Home Assistant Google Drive backup add-on, and we'll have to grab this URL from GitHub. We'll go to our settings inside of Home Assistant. We'll go to add-ons and then the add-on store. We're going to come up to the three dots in the top right-hand corner, and we're going to go to repositories and then paste that GitHub link, click add, and then hit close. And we need to do a Control-Shift-R refresh to get that to load. And we can see it down here. So we're going to click on our Home Assistant Google Drive Backup add-on. We'll click Install. And then we're going to want to set up Start on Boot and Watchdog. And I'm not going to add it to the sidebar, but you could if you wanted to. And then we'll click Start. And then we'll go to the web UI. And we're going to have to authenticate our Google Drive. So we're going to click this link here. Going to log into our email. And then we're going to copy this authorization string. Go back to Home Assistant, paste that in here, and then click Save. And I'm going to enable sharing error reports. And I already have some backups in here because I used this previously on my last installation, and I was using it right before making this video. But we're going to use the same folder. You could choose a different folder or create a new one. I'm just going to keep using it. And we'll hop over here to the settings. And I like to keep 4 backups in Home Assistant, 4 backups in Google Drive. This depends on how much storage you're paying for in Google and how much storage you have on your device. You might want to reduce this slightly. And then I leave most of these settings alone. 3 days between backups, just so it's not every day. You could honestly pump this out to a week or so, but I have had some situations where I needed to roll back, and I was glad that it was very recent and not too old. But I'm just going to keep all of this the same and click Save. And that's it. We can now just kind of ignore the backups, and hopefully we never have an issue. Now, let's say something does go horribly wrong and you need to use your backup. The easiest way is going to be the Nabu Casa backups here. If you're paying for it on the Home Assistant cloud, when you're installing Home Assistant again, you click a button that says restore from a previous one. You log in and choose it from a drop-down list. Otherwise, for the Google add-on, what you're going to do is install Home Assistant as you normally would. And then the very first thing that you do once you have your dashboard as we see it now, you'd go to add-ons, go to your Home Assistant, add your Google Drive backup add-on, open it, find your backup, and then you'd come down here and click restore. Now, I typically in my videos, I have recommended that you use the Home Assistant operating system. And I say that because I like having my add-ons a part of Home Assistant that is all in one place. And you can see that very clearly here that my Zigbee to MQTT, my Node-RED, my Mosquito, all that stuff is built into this backup so that I'm not losing my automations in Node-RED. I'm not losing my Zigbee devices in Zigbee to MQTT. I think that's very important. If you're going to be doing this as a Docker container, or you're going to be running some of these services outside of Home Assistant, you need to be backing those up as well. You'll only be backing up what is actually inside of Home Assistant. And if there are things outside of your installation that you're running in a Docker container, those won't come back automatically. And I think that gets overlooked sometimes. That's why I do recommend using Home Assistant OS, because the backups are going to keep everything together and it's just a little easier to manage. Again, this video hasn't been super exciting, but it's something that you really need to make sure you're doing, and making sure that you check on this at least once a year, every 6 months or so. All you have to do is come over to your settings, system, and backups tab, and just making sure that you get your green check mark and that it's been recent, that there's one upcoming and there's one recently. Or if you're using the Google add-on like I am, you just come over here, open the web UI, and make sure it's recent, that everything's good. A backup is going to really save your butt when you expect it the least. And I say that from experience. I can't tell you, I don't actually remember the scenario because it wasn't a big deal. I just came in here and restored my backup and all was well. I actually think the first time I made a backup, or that I restored a backup, was when I was still hosting Home Assistant on a Raspberry Pi 3B, probably 6 years ago or so. And my SD card on my Raspberry Pi died just out of the blue, and my on-device backups are useless. The place that they were being stored on that SD card is where it died. So thank goodness that I had a cloud backup. I set up a virtual machine on my Unraid server. I set up the very basic Home Assistant OS image in a virtual machine. The very first thing I did was install the add-on for the Google Drive backup, opened it up, logged in, and then hit restore, and everything came back. And I only missed about 24 hours. Worth of data and changes. And I think at that time I hadn't made any changes in a while, so it was pretty seamless. Highly recommend getting on top of this. You never know when it's going to save your butt, and you really don't want to set everything up from scratch again, I'm willing to bet. Again, this video series, we're covering everything. It's not always the most exciting thing, but if you want to have a strong Home Assistant setup, feel free to subscribe and follow along as we continue to hit these topics and keep expanding on our smart home. Thanks for watching.